You're doing everything right. You're delivering results, working harder than ever, and still no promotion. Maybe you've taken on even more responsibility than your title reflects. You've led the initiatives, you've picked up the slack, you've stayed late, and yet you keep hearing things like, you're doing great, but now's not the right time. Or worse, silence. Today, I want to talk about the missing skill ingredient, the one that keeps so many high performing women just like you out of the executive team. Because here's the truth. Performance doesn't equal promotion. I know it sucks. And if you've been assuming that results alone will get you a seat at the table, you're not alone, but it might be what's holding you back. In today's episode of Leading Women in Tech, I'm going to talk to you about why you're not getting promoted, even when you're overperforming. I'm going to walk you through why being the best at your job is not enough, and what actually does get you seen as strategic and a promotable leader. And if you're wondering what's missing in your own leadership toolkit, I've got something special for you, my Promotion Readiness Scorecard. It's a simple, honest assessment to help you identify the real reasons you're not being tapped. What to focus on next? Let's dive on in. Let me tell you about a client of mine. We'll call her Sandra. Sandra was leading a marketing team at a global SaaS company when she came to work with me. She was delivering exceptional results. Every deadline met, every KPI exceeded. Her team loved her. Leadership trusted her, and yet she kept getting passed over for promotion. Finally, she asked her boss, "What am I missing?" It took her a long time to get to that point. The answer? "You're doing a great job, Sandra, but I'm not sure you're quite ready for an SVP level role. You're excellent at what you do, but we need something more strategic." More strategic. Sandra came to me stunned because she thought she was being strategic. She was solving problems, she was managing up, she was driving outcomes. But what her boss wasn't seeing was SVP level presence, or even actually VP level presence, it came out. This is a trap I see so many of us fall into, especially as women in tech. It's what I call the performance versus perception gap. You're doing the work, often more than your peers who are getting promoted, by the way, and that sucks immensely. But promotions don't just come from being good at your job. They come from being seen as ready to influence beyond your role, from being seen as someone who can sit at the executive table and shape the future of the business. And here's the hard truth. If you're always in execution mode, always in getting things done mode, people stop seeing you as a person who steps back, thinks bigger, and drives strategy. Even if you're going all out behind the scenes, it's not just about performance, it's about how your performance is framed, interpreted, and communicated. That's where perception comes in. So if you've ever found yourself thinking, why am I not getting promoted when I'm clearly doing the work? This might be it. So I want to talk to you now about what's actually missing. What's the most frustrating thing I see is that you're delivering, you're the go-to person, the team relies on you, and yet you're not being invited to the big meetings. You're not getting considered for strategic projects. You're still waiting for that promotion that feels beyond earned, in your opinion. So here's what's really going on. Here's why. You're stuck in this performance gap. Your promotions aren't based only on results. They matter. Do not get me wrong. Results really matter, but not as much as you might think, which is why you see people getting promoted who you think, why on earth are they being promoted? They're based on how you're perceived more than anything else. And often, just like Sandra's experience, the people around you can't see your full leadership potential because you're too busy keeping the engine of the business running. It's not fair, but it's real. This gap is especially common for us as women in tech. We've been taught through a lifetime of indoctrination that we should keep everybody happy. So if you just work hard, keep your head down, someone will notice. But it doesn't work. When you get to a certain point, it doesn't actually work all the way up in my opinion, but often early on in our careers, we have somebody who does pay attention. The higher up you get, the less you get noticed. Executive teams and boards, because ultimately at this level, it isn't just an executive team that makes a decision about your promotion. They do not promote based on hustle. In fact, if you're hustling, and you're showing you're hustling, you are actually less likely to get a promotion because they see somebody who's at the end of what they're capable of. Hustle comes with, I can't do more. What they do promote for is strategic potential, leadership voice, and perceived readiness to influence beyond a current scope. If you're not showing intentionally that you can think like this, communicate as a leader, challenge the business as a leader, not just your area, but the entire business, then no matter how good your performance is, you're not going to be seen as ready. You're going to be viewed as, she's not quite there. And you won't be given useful feedback. I've yet to hear somebody genuinely get good feedback beyond, you're not quite ready. As soon as you go into the land of, you need to work on your executive presence, you're not strategic enough, you're not quite ready, that's feedback where they go, I don't really know how to help her. I don't believe it's necessarily malicious. I just think they don't know how to help you. And yes, this disproportionately impacts women, especially women of color, and especially women in technical roles. So if you've ever found yourself asking, why am I not getting promoted when I'm clearly doing the work? Today's episode is the answer. Now, the good news is you're going to shift this because it starts with knowing what is really missing. What is the signal you need to be giving off? And that's what we're going to dig into. So if performance alone isn't enough, what are they looking for? When executive teams are deciding who's ready for that next level, who's ready to step into the room where strategy happens, they're not just reviewing a checklist of deliverables, which is often what we think of as going on earlier on, right? They're looking for signs that you can operate at that next level of thinking, communicate it, and present it. And by present it, I mean having executive presence. Own your own at the table, have a voice at the table, speak up at the table, but speak up in the right way. Here's what they're really scanning for, whether they say it outright or not. Number one, strategic communication. Can you speak like a leader, not just give a project update? This means framing your work through business outcomes, making succinct, insight-driven contributions to everything, speaking to what matters to them, not just what matters to you, and not the details you're deep in. We're going to come back to this one in a moment. Number two, executive presence. When you walk into a high-stakes meeting, are you trusted? Do people lean in when you talk, or do you get overlooked and overtalked? Executive presence isn't just about being the loudest. In fact, I would say executive presence is not being loud. It's about the combination of clarity, confidence, and calm that makes people believe you can lead beyond your current scope. Number three, they're looking for influence without being aggressive. Are you able to challenge ideas, push back, and move decisions forward without stepping on toes or losing trust? This is about relational intelligence, navigating egos, emotions, and ambiguity while still driving outcomes. This skill is critical at the executive level, and it's one of the hardest for overlooked performers to master, right? If you're a high performer, but you don't have relational intelligence, it's hard to bring it in, but it's doable because we've often been rewarded for being agreeable. And now we need to step away from that being our priority. Okay, number four, forward thinking, a big picture mindset. Do you zoom out or stay stuck in task mode? Leaders who get promoted are the ones who can talk about impact, trends, future risk, opportunity. They link it to every aspect of the business. They don't just report what happened. They anticipate what's coming next and recommend how the business should respond, not just how their team should. And then the fifth, and possibly the most important piece, because it underpins the first four, self-regulation under pressure. Do you stay grounded in tough moments? The tension at that exec level, the politics, the hard decisions come with the territory. If you want to be in the room, your ability to stay calm, listen actively, respond with intention, not emotion, is absolutely essential. And I think so many of us struggle with this. I certainly have done. Each of these might sound familiar, but the truth is most of us, and I work pretty much exclusively with women. I'm not saying it's only women, by the way, but I think most of the women I've worked with, and let me extend that, I think most of the human race are doing some of it, but they don't know how to do it consistently and not in a way that's visible to decision makers. They aren't going to invite you to that executive table if you can't deal with the tension, if you can't hold your own in the conversation. So let's take these 5 elements and let's break them down in more detail for you. because I want you to take these and I want you to change starting today. That is my goal for you today. I want you to take what you're hearing and I want you to make a difference today in your next meeting. The next meeting you're going into, because every meeting you should be showing up this way, because it is in every conversation that you need to be demonstrating these 5 things. So take a pen and paper, or maybe pause and jot voice notes if you're listening to this while you're commuting. I don't care. But I want you to take notes and I want you to change how you operate. So let's start with number 1, the most visible of the executive skill gaps: strategic communication. Here's what I want you to ask yourself. Do you speak like a leader or like a reliable doer, executor, the person who gets shit done? The truth is, most of us as high performers are stuck narrating our to-do list instead of framing our impact. Our meetings are about the to-do list and what we've done. This shows up in meetings because we're ready to give status updates, report on work completed, go through a spreadsheet and go tick, 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 or explain processes. But what we're not doing is connecting that work to the bigger business goals. At the end of the day, your boss doesn't care what you've done this week. He cares that you're moving the business forward. When you do stay in the weeds, when you stay in the details, even if they're impressive details, you risk being seen as tactical instead of strategic. If you get that feedback about not being strategic enough, it's because you're always talking details. Here's what strategic communication does sound like. This project is on track and we're already seeing early indicators that it will reduce customer churn by 12%. We've identified a trend that could impact Q3 deliverables, and I'm proposing a mitigation plan to stay ahead of it. Our backlog is growing in key area, which signals a shift in customer needs. I recommend reallocating resources to capture that opportunity. Do you see the difference? You're not reporting, well, you are reporting, but you're interpreting, you're framing, you're guiding, you're forward looking. You probably do forward look. You know why things matter, but you've got to put everything you say in that context. Executive teams want people who turn activity into insight. They want to know we're doing the right activities. And this doesn't mean you have to dominate the conversation. Short and sweet is still primary here. It means that when you do speak, people hear something that connects dots, signals business acumen, shows initiative. It demonstrates why we're spending money, because ultimately time is money. Here's a simple prompt to help you shift. Instead of saying, I completed X, try the impact of X and what I think we should do next is. That small shift takes you from update mode to executive contributor mode. And if you're not sure where to start, go back to your list of big deliverables and ask, what changed because of this? What insight did I gain from it? What future risk or opportunity have I uncovered? That's the muscle we want to build, because when you start talking like a leader, people start seeing you as one. Okay, let's talk executive presence, number 2. This is one of the most misunderstood and crucial ingredients for promotion in the executive team. People often think executive presence means being bold, extroverted, commanding attention the moment you enter the room. But here's the truth. Executive presence is about being trusted with complexity, trusted in the face of uncertainty, trusted to lead through hard moments without drama, without noise, without ego. At its core, executive presence is made up of clarity, calm, credibility. So let me ask you this. When you're in a high-stakes meeting, do people lean in when you speak or gloss over you? Are you projecting certainty and focus? Or are you trying to prove your value through volume, detail, and over-explaining? Presence is about how people feel when you're in the room. Do they feel grounded? Do they feel led? Do they feel calm? Here's what executive presence looks like in action. You speak clearly and concisely, even when the topic is complex. You don't rush to fill silence, which I will admit I struggle with. You pause, you think, and then you speak with intention. When you disagree, you do so with confidence and calm, not tension or defensiveness. You show up as the same version of yourself, whether you're talking to a peer, your team, or the CEO. One of the biggest compliments you can receive as a leader is this: she never wastes a word. Or she didn't need to be the loudest, she just made it count. If you've ever felt like you've been overlooked in meetings, or that your presence isn't landing, this is a sign to work on how you show up when it matters most. And this is coachable. It's very good news. It's not a personality thing. This is a signal to you. When you get it right, executive teams start seeing you differently because you've shifted from smart to strategic and ready. So if you've got the executive presence down, let's move on to the third topic that makes you promotable. Let's talk about influence and how you can influence matters just as much as what you say. Because the further up your ladder you go, the less power you have from your role, and the more you need to rely on relational influence. And here's the tricky part, especially for women in a male-dominated industry. We're constantly navigating the tightrope. Be assertive, but not too assertive. Speak up, but don't speak up too much. Challenge ideas, but not people. Have an opinion. Don't make others uncomfortable. This feels like, what are we supposed to do? What happens? Many of us as high performers default to silence when something feels off. Or we try to push an idea forward, but come across as combative, defensive, or not quite ready. The skill we're talking about here is how to influence without being aggressive. And it can feel like a double-edged sword as a woman in tech. This is what true executive influence looks like. Asking bold questions instead of making blunt statements. Framing feedback as partnership, not criticism. Challenging with curiosity, not control. Here's what it sounds like. Instead of, this won't work, try, I'm going to offer a different angle that might help us get ahead of this risk. Instead of, I don't agree with this approach, try, what outcome are we optimizing for here? I might have a way to build on that. That's influence, not just being right, not dominating, because at the exec table, nobody's in charge except the CEO. You all have strengths. So you've got to show that you can shape direction with trust, insight, and calm conviction. And it's not just about language, it's about energy. Influential leaders don't need to prove themselves in every conversation. They know when to speak, how to frame it, and how to keep people open and not defensive. If you're not getting traction when you pitch ideas or challenge decisions, this could be the missing piece. Next, let's explore the fourth area that you need, the mindset that holds all of this together. Forward-thinking, big picture leadership. So let's shift how you speak to how you think. Because when it comes to executive promotion, one of the most overlooked but essential qualities is having a forward-thinking, big picture mindset. Everything else we've just talked about requires you to have that big picture mindset. Here's what I mean. So you want to deep dive in your day-to-day and you've stopped. You need to lift your head to look up. Because when you want to get promoted, especially to the executive level, you need to not just deliver results. You need to be the one who's consistently demonstrating you look round corners. You think beyond this task. You connect the dots across functions. You anticipate risks before they become problems. And you talk about opportunities that the business hasn't even named yet. Here's a coaching question I love to ask my clients. If your company doubled tomorrow, what would break first? If you can answer that, you're thinking like a strategist. Leaders with big picture thinking bring insights that go beyond their department. They understand how their work connects to business growth and they advocate for what's next, not just what's now. And it's okay not to know how to do this naturally because it's a skill. It is not something you just know how to do. But the good news is you can train yourself to look ahead, to connect the dots, to work to broader outcomes, to make space in your week to zoom out and reflect. If your calendar is too full for you to think strategically, your promotion is already at risk. You need to carve the time out for thinking and not just execution. And I know this one's a hard one, but that is a key mindset shift. It signals that you are ready to own, not just deliver. You're ready to shape, not just execute. And that's exactly what an executive team needs. So now let's look at the final element of these 5 things. The glue that holds all of this together, because none of it matters if you can't stay calm and grounded under pressure. So this final skill, the marker of a powerful executive, is self-regulation. At the executive level, your ability to stay calm, present, emotionally steady, especially in those high pressure moments, is everything. So let me be blunt. If you can't regulate yourself, and I say that as somebody who struggled for a long time, no one is going to trust you to lead through uncertainty. Nobody's going to trust you to deal with the fire fully. Nobody's going to trust you as a change agent. Nobody's going to trust you to make good decisions. Executive teams are looking for leaders who can handle conflict without personalizing it, make decisions under stress, receive that hard feedback with maturity rather than defensiveness, and navigate the egos in the room and the emotion without losing their center. And yet so many high performers crumble when the conversation gets tense. We shut down. And I say we because it includes me. We lash out. We become very apologetic. We stop talking. Our brain stops operating. Now, it doesn't mean you're not capable. It means you haven't learned how to self-regulate at the level that's required for this role. And it isn't rocket science. It is totally learnable, but I don't think it's something that most of us have until we learn it. It does not mean suppressing your feelings. Absolutely not. That's just a pressure vessel waiting to burst. It means being able to pause, reflect, respond with intention, not reactivity. Here's a simple practice I use every day and I teach people all the time. When tension rises, breathe, pause, and then speak after. A 3-second pause can stop a spiral and give you back emotional regulation. Because the truth is at the top, stakes are just going to be higher. The spotlight is brighter, and you're not just judged by what you say, but how you handle the pressure while you're being told other things. When you build emotional steadiness, you become the person everyone looks to when things get hard. When the room's getting tense, you're the one that's heard. That makes you indispensable. So if you're delivering results but not getting promoted, start asking, how am I sharing these things? So we've now gone through those 5 executive skills that you need to get promotion ready. Strategic communication, executive presence, influence without being aggressive, big picture thinking, and number 5, self-regulation under pressure. So let me ask you this. How many of those are you actively demonstrating every day? Because here's the thing. Most of us are not doing the work. Most of us get a blocker in our careers because we've never figured this out. You're great technically, you're great at leading your team, but you're not getting recognized as ready for executive leadership because one of these skills is underdeveloped, hidden behind task execution, or simply you're not being seen by the people who make promotion decisions. So let me walk through some of the signs you might be missing one of these signals. If you keep hearing, you're doing great, but not quite ready, you're producing results, but leadership is not seeing you as someone who drives the business forward. If you're being praised, but not invited to strategic conversations, they like your work, but they don't view you as someone who shapes the future direction of the company. If you feel stuck in the doer identity, you're viewed as the reliable one, the safe pair in hands, but you're not being tapped for visibility or advancement. If you struggle to get traction in meetings, you're good at sharing insights, but no one follows up, or you speak up and it doesn't seem to land. And if you're told to be more strategic, but don't know what that actually means, spoiler, it usually means we want to see more of those 5 skills that I just talked about. And let's be clear, none of these signs mean you're failing. They mean you're playing the wrong game. You've been operating with that high-level manager mentality when it's time to start showing up like an executive. This is precisely why today's episode exists and why I've created the Promotion Readiness Scorecard that I started using with my clients and I'm making available to all of you. Because you shouldn't have to guess what's holding you back, and yet it feels like guesswork. You deserve clarity, you deserve a path forward. And if you're ready to find out which of the executive signals you need to develop next, I want you to know how. So I want you to go to tonicollis.com/scorecard. You can just take a quick quiz. You get tailored results. I do look at the moment, at the point of recording this, every single result is personally put together by me. So it does take roughly a working day to get it back to you. So be patient, but it is a tailored path forward. So hopefully you're now beginning to see what is missing, these key executive signals. I want you to start closing that gap between who you are and where you want to be. Because the truth is, it isn't about doing more, it's about doing differently. If you've been over-delivering and still overlooked, stop waiting to be tapped. Really, you have to stop waiting to get tapped. The only person who can change this is you. You're already visible to somebody, so let's start operating as visible to everybody. Start showing up as someone who is already part of the executive team. I want you to reframe how you communicate, speak in outcomes, not tasks. Lead with insight, not information. Use your voice to shape the conversation, not just update it. A small shift in language can completely change how you're perceived. And then I want you to think about being more strategic, not just excellent. Don't just do the job, connect the dots. Ask yourself, how does this align with the company priorities? What risk am I reducing? What opportunity am I servicing? Executives think in bets, trade-offs, timelines. Start thinking that way yourself. Then start building visibility that reflects the value. Don't assume your boss is your only audience. Start building influence beyond your manager, not just your skip levels either. Cross-function, exec-adjacent conversations. Talk about what you're doing with other people beyond your team. Get clarity on the gaps. This is the most important piece. Don't guess, diagnose. As I said, take the free promotion readiness scorecard I created for women just like you. It's not a fluffy quiz. It's a real tool to get you honest about where you're strong and where you need to grow so you can finally step into the role you're looking for. So let's land this. You're doing the work, you're hitting the targets, but if you're not getting promoted, you need to know why. It's not just about how much you deliver, it's about how the people experience your leadership. So if you're ready to close that gap, let's reflect. Take 5 minutes to ask yourself, which of the 5 skills I covered are you currently under-leveraging? I'm going to put those 5 skills in the show notes, by the way, for you. Am I showing up as strategic or just reliable? Where might people be assuming that my work speaks for itself, but actually it's not? Which skill am I under-leveraging right now? What would change if I was seen as a strategic leader, not just the reliable person who executes? If you can have that honest internal reflection, that's where the transformation starts. So don't guess, get some diagnosis going on, self-reflection, ask multiple people, multiple colleagues. You really need more than just one person's feedback because people are really bad at explaining what's going on. You'll just get that you're not strategic enough. Speak to multiple people. And if this episode made you feel seen, challenged, or motivated, go take that scorecard. If you're loving what we're talking about around here, by the way, do me a huge favor. Like, subscribe, leave a comment or a review. Every little action helps me put this podcast out so I can bring more episodes just like this to you and all the other women in tech out there. But to wrap up, here's what I want you to take away from today's episode. If you're not getting promoted, it doesn't mean you're not good enough. It doesn't mean you need to work harder. It means it's time to shift how you're showing up. You might be doing everything, quotes, right on paper, delivering results, supporting your team, being dependable, but being the person who's ready to be promoted, showing that you're the decision maker who's seen as strategic, influential, ready to lead at that next level. That's what's going to move you forward. But the good news is this is learnable, it's fixable. You don't have to figure it out on your own. I would love to hear from you. Drop me a message on LinkedIn. Tell me if this is hitting home, is this is what you needed to hear, or if there's another topic that you think would unlock you for that next level. I'm here to change the world, so let me help you do that. Until then, lead with purpose, with presence, with power. You have got this. Your next promotion isn't about working harder. It's about being seen differently. And I'm here to make sure that happens. Bye for now.